It is Mr. Ravi Batra, lawyer and chairman Green Star Global Energy Corporation, also chairman of the National Advisory Council for South Asian Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I know I'm the 12th speaker, so, and it's getting late, so I've cut down some of my remarks, particularly because so many prior speakers have spoken eloquently. But I do want to acknowledge Minister Valentin Rybakov. Great to see you again, sir. Minister Zerzan Ashikbayev, President Peter Thompson, President Shava, Excellencies all, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me a moment of personal privilege. Today, in Astana, Kazakhstan, our dear friend Kairat Abdrakhmanov, Foreign Minister of Kazakhstan, is hosting the Syrian talks, which included an invitation of the United States to participate, and our ambassador to Kazakhstan is doing so. This gives me and Ambassador Andrei Dubkunis something wonderful to toast at our next lunch. I'm also delighted that Kairat Umarov, a world-class diplomat, like his namesake predecessor, and a man with an endearing soul, has become PR and will assist the all-powerful Security Council to be even better in its vital task to do good and not make things worse. Lastly, I salute the permanent missions of Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Suriname for their leadership in convening this high-level brainstorming discussion with the UNDP. Let me also give a disclaimer up front. Hiroshima, Chernobyl, and Fukushima, which is currently leaking 300 tons of radioactive water daily into the Pacific Ocean, raise an issue in my mind. Would I like to have more of them, more often? Like every other human being on Earth, the unambiguous answer is no, not ever. Today's topic, responsible governance, disarmament and non-proliferation for progress and sustainable development, is being and has been ably addressed by distinguished speakers, and listening to them informs my judgment. However, I wish to focus purely on responsible governance and merely give a hat tip to disarmament and non-proliferation, which I admit are critical pathways for progress and sustainable development. The mother of all things, good and bad, let alone ugly, is governance. It has remained a core goal achieved and lost repeatedly when the best governance was discovered. Take your pick in human history when governance was best. Some think it was Louis XIV. Others, the pharaohs of Egypt, Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, King Solomon, Ashoka the Great, Akbar the Great, King Saladin, the Ming Dynasty, the Ottoman, Persian, and British empires, or the Shogun era of Japan. My favorites, however, are the aggregate of Presidents George Washington, for he gave up power willingly to allow a young republic to mature, and Abraham Lincoln, who in his Gettysburg Address gave us the best recipe for governance. But before I dig deeper, let me mention just one really bad government of recent vintage, Adolf Hitler, who caused bad and evil to be enshrined as the Nuremberg laws, let alone the Holocaust. To make government better is to peel back this governance onion, for it contains every human characteristic: ego, ambition, power, wealth, knowledge, and faith. If you focus, you will discover each of these attributes are good, they're also bad, and with extreme abuse, really ugly. This leads to but one conclusion: we the people are capable of being good, bad, or ugly. Hence, governance must focus on and militate against human motives and human vices. Yet statecraft, the methodology of governance, seems to make a core mistake repeatedly. To wit, the use of counterbalance as a tool to control or affect the outcome of a given challenge. It's great on a chessboard, where the worst result is merely to lose a game. In real life, however, the very principle of counterbalance is fatally flawed, as it produces a loser every time, sometimes by boomerang. One can look recently to events in Syria, Libya, and Iraq, let alone Afghanistan, which affected both the then Soviets and us, the United States, to this day. Let me gloss over the fine and critical nuance differences in a revolutionary or a freedom fighter, as it is the terrorist that most of us can agree to defeat, as sovereignty and public safety is a casualty. If the purpose of governance is world or regional domination, then let us continue as we are. If, however, governance is to better permit the human family to coexist peacefully and securely in our lives, liberties, and properties, then we're doing it wrong. Every nation or region of the world has a social and cultural ecosystem, which, when disturbed by practices foreign to it, causes reactions beyond the expected. Globalization, then, while applying Ricardo's comparative advantage, is also a disturbing national identities, given our digital connectivity that has turned the earth flat and Galileo wrong, metaphorically, as in our information age there are no shadows and no secrets. For people to become successful leaders, they must have ego and ambition driving them, among other traits. Yet, it is always unbridled ego and ambition that ruins success into failure, with human misery commensurate with how big the leader was. The problem is now magnified, even as the population is at an all-time high, especially with scientists predicting human life to rise dramatically over the next 100 years to an average of perhaps 120. Just 200 years ago, the average life expectancy was merely 40. In this condensed world, with neighbors on top of neighbors, with their individual rights irritating each other, this is the 21st century, which probably caused President Nazarbayev of Kazakhstan to issue his manifesto, which at an event that Ambassador Kairat Umarov did in April, an interfaith dialogue I simply referred to as War on War. 3 days ago, we celebrated the Trump presidency as he put the world on notice that the sole superpower was going to put America first, and revisit how we define enemies and friends. Secretary of State nominee Rex Tillerson, who will be confirmed today, in his confirmation hearing said it clearly. Sometimes we will partner on an issue with friends and other times with enemies to achieve our goals. There was even a clear statement as to the 9 dashes in the South China Sea. To paraphrase John Lennon, just imagine if the United States, Russia, and China, let alone additional allies like Japan, Germany, India, England, and France, were to dance together, cheek to cheek, or a group dance. It would put the marketplace of state-sponsored dissension and strife to take a holiday, if not close down. Even R2P, with its lofty and self-laudatory imperative, is merely majority rule, or might is right, the very definition of a successful war. I am no pacifist, as I remain in favor of noble wars, such as World War II, to defeat fascism. But just compare, how humanity has progressed on a civilian level to solve disputes. Almost 500 years ago, we replaced trial by combat with trial by jury. Maybe it's time to bring state-sponsored wars to act like trial by jury. Maybe it's time to bring humanity's suffering as a counterbalance to our leaders' collective folly. Now that would really be war on war. I, for one, am very hopeful. The established order that has been disrupted by a popular uprising, which President Trump gives a clear and loud voice to, even as he nominates establishment steady and superb cabinet members. Maybe, like Trump's supporters, we should take ourselves seriously but not literally. This creates flexibility, and flexibility is the vital vehicle of wise governance, as it allows one to pull out of a mistake before it's a tragedy. To sum up, I suggest the following: ban counterbalance as a tool of statecraft. It has brought us nothing but grief and flawed results. Globalization needs to be done carefully so that we respect local culture, or else we will have a rebuke, as we've experienced. Third, the population explosion, thanks to our medical sciences, makes this change imminent and critical. And finally, if we can get rid of state-sponsored war with something akin to trial by jury, and where better to suggest it than in the citadel of multilateralism, the United Nations itself, then, as the PGA, Peter Thompson, was suggesting, the military spending budget can be freed up to help develop society and SDGs generally, but especially SDG 16. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Batra.